Department seeking a new interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, and you urge the Attorney General to see her.
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
They're going to. Your Deputy Attorney General has reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, as your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given...
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt.
In addition to DOJ's efforts, the House Oversight Committee plans to subpoena Maxwell, quote, as expeditiously as possible. That's according to a committee spokesperson. Without any opposition yesterday, an oversight subcommittee approved a motion directing committee chair James Comer to issue a subpoena for Maxwell. The Kentucky Republican told reporters the subpoena will be issued within the next few days.
I think if we talk to Maxwell, if she wants to tell us who all was going to Epstein Island, I think that would be interesting, and you can go from there. We don't know all the facts, but everything that we know from what we've seen in the media reports is it's really bad. So I don't think she should be granted a pardon or immunity or anything like that. If she wants to talk to members of Congress, then we'll give her that opportunity.
Comer also said Maxwell's deposition will take place in prison, where she's currently serving a 20-year sentence. Meanwhile, Oversight Ranking Member, Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia, warned that Maxwell's testimony might also come with a cost.
To be clear, she obviously wants to be free, and she understands that there's opportunity in her in working with Donald Trump and what she says. And so I think we just have to be aware of that. We should still want as much information out there as possible. We should still want to have her come testify in front of Oversight in the Congress, but we should just we should just understand that this is a very complex witness and someone that has caused great harm and not a good person to a lot of people.
Maxwell's counsel and the Bureau of Prisons did not immediately respond to requests for comment about the possible congressional testimony. DOJ also declined to comment. And House Speaker Mike Johnson is cutting short the House's last work week before its summer recess and is sending lawmakers home early to avoid having to hold votes on releasing files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Lawmakers were originally scheduled to hold votes tomorrow before then leaving for a 5-week recess, but GOP leaders bumped the last vote to today after a standoff in the House Rules Committee, which decides how legislation comes to the floor but has been grounded to a halt by the Epstein issue. Democrats had promised to force the committee to take more votes on whether to require the White House to release all remaining Epstein files, but Republicans decided to recess the committee and not attempt to pass a rule for bills this week. Yesterday, Johnson tried blaming that on Democrats.
We're not going to allow them to engage in that charade anymore. Why do I call it a charade? Because the Democrats are trying to play gotcha politics right now when, as the leader just pointed out, they don't have any moral high ground on this at all. They controlled the Department of Justice for the last 4 years. Has anyone forgotten? They had all these files the entire time.
Johnson also aimed his ire toward Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who's working with Democrats to force a vote in September that would compel the Justice Department to release the remaining files.
I don't understand Thomas Massie's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. Thomas Massie could have brought his discharge petition any time over the last 4.5 years. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, he could have done that at any time. And now he's clamoring as if there's some sort of timeline on it. It's interesting to me that he chose the election of President Trump to bring this.
Massie isn't alone, though. Fellow Republican Congressman James Comer of Kentucky told reporters yesterday most congressional Republicans want DOJ to release everything they have on Epstein, noting their constituents feel the same way. Comer went on to say he thinks that by the time the House is back in session, all will be released. Joining us now, NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley, also with us, politics reporter for Semaphore, Shelby Talcott. Guys, I'm so glad that you're here this morning because there is a ton to unpack on both sides of Pennsylvania Avenue. So, Ryan, I'll start with you there on the fact that we could see Ghislaine Maxwell in front of at least the House Oversight Committee. What does that tell you about the way that she is going to potentially be the next wave of this story, both in the House and then we'll get to Todd Blanche after?
Yeah, I mean, well, her incentives are extremely clear here, right? She's trying to cozy up to the administration as much as possible. possible and potentially feed them something that they see politically beneficial, because ultimately what she's trying to do is shave time off of that sentence. And, unreliable narrator, I think, is the key phrase to think about with her, just considering what she's been convicted of, that 20-year sentence. Anything that she's saying is basically a potential attempt to get out of prison, when she'll be until she's 80 as of currently right now. So anything she can do to sort of trim that down, I think, is clearly where that's coming from. And, I think that the investigation looked at what they had available to them. This is all stuff that was gone through thoroughly by the FBI before. If there was a chargeable offense, that would have been something. Now, whether there's more information that maybe didn't rise to the level of being able to be charged, or or statute of limitations considerations, is another separate issue. But all of NBC's reporting reflects that there's not just like secret list that's behind the scenes. So I think that is something to remember to keep focused on, is that there's not some sort of just like file that is out there, because I think we would have seen that especially come out throughout these last several years, especially with considering the whistleblower processes that are available.
And part of what muddies that water is from the Attorney General herself, who at one point earlier in the year said, well, I have the Epstein list on my desk, and now is having to walk back the fact that that list doesn't exist, at least not in the way that many on the right expected that it would be, and in releasable fashion. But what does it tell you about the state of House Republicans right now, that this is the way the Speaker is being forced to deal with it? Even members who are not wanting to force the White House's hand, like Comer, are saying, okay, we'll subpoena Maxwell. We want all of this stuff released. We think it'll be fine by September. Is that kind of too cute, wishful thinking?
I think so. I think this is the one issue that has really divided the base. And I think that's the problem for House Republicans here, is they are hearing from their constituents. They're hearing from these corners of the MAGA universe that really have never broken off from Donald Trump before. And they themselves, I think, are particularly interested in this, because they've heard for the last several years about how there is a client list, about how there's all this information. And then you have the Attorney General sort of stoking that fire over the past few months before coming out with that 2-page memo that effectively closed everything down. And so there are a lot of people within the MAGA base that want answers, and that doesn't seem to be going away despite the president's efforts to make it go away. And I think that this Ghislaine Maxwell potential interview is sort of their way of trying to placate the base. The question is anything going to placate the base at this point, given that they really think that there's a whole host of other information that still hasn't been released?
So then what's the difference between what we might get from Maxwell in front of the House Oversight Committee, which I agree is sort of an attempt to tread water, show that they're doing something without doing everything. But what's the difference between that and what DOJ is doing through Todd Blanche meeting with her?
I mean, we should say this is highly unusual, right? You don't typically have the number 2 official within the Justice Department talking about meeting with a criminal defendant, who's already been convicted in this part. So I think that's sort of the oddity here. But what the administration has said, or what Todd Blanche has said, and what the Attorney General has said, is that they're open to sort of whatever information comes in. Now, we should note that one of the things that whistleblowers apparently went to Democratic members of Congress about was that when they were spending all this time going through these files again, these FBI agents that were pulled off of other tasks to look at these files once again at the beginning of the year, they were told to flag anything that mentioned Trump. That's coming from the administration. Now, that's certainly within the realm of possibility here, because you do have such focus and such a close alignment between the Justice Department and the White House in a way that we have never seen since Watergate. So I think that's the interests here are just fascinating, right? You have the president's former criminal defense attorney in this position, and everyone is sort of worried very much so about how Donald Trump reacts to this, which is why it was kind of odd, I think, that you did see after you saw Trump make a lot of efforts to sort of, I think, throw attention off of this early in the week. And then suddenly we had this reversal, and it's back to being focused on Epstein. So now I think you have the House, at least in Speaker Mike Johnson, trying to pull back from that and say, never mind about this. But when you have a base, as we said, that has been so spun up on this, it's it's very difficult to pull them back.
It's hard to put Pandora back in the box, especially when you're the one who opened the box in the first place. But I do think that that's where I want to end with us on this segment about, we started talking about how the president is now lashing out at Obama. And I thought it was notable that the Obama spokespeople thought that they had to come out and just say, this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, very quickly, can you explain what Tulsi is trying to do here, what the Director of National Intelligence is trying to do here, and what the actual reality of it is, because it doesn't match?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear. I think it's extremely notable that this report came out when it did,
yes.
Right? And it seems like a clear attempt to sort of shift the focus. And we've seen that not just with the Gabbard report, but also with a whole host of other things. You know, the president over the weekend was talking about the Washington commanders. He was talking about the Idaho killers plea deal. He was talking about a whole host of other issues. So this Gabbard thing is a clear attempt to sort of shift the focus away from Donald Trump. Now, there doesn't seem to be any real evidence of what is going on, but really it is an attempt to shift this focus away from the Epstein files. But at the same time, you have the DOJ that is now seemingly pursuing what Donald Trump has worked so hard to throw off his base.
Yeah, and that's all happening simultaneously. And we know that Gabbard said she'll release more information about what she's talking about later today. But it doesn't change the fact that it's been consistent, 2016 to 2020, the fact that Russia had motivation to do work in the 2016 election, but ultimately they were not able to manipulate actual vote counts. And that, I think, is the important piece of the puzzle here. We're going to leave it there. There's so many threads to follow in Washington. Ryan Riley and Shelby Talcott, thank you both for joining us to start us off this morning. And still ahead, we're going to bring you the latest on the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the growing calls for a ceasefire there. Plus, Ukraine and Russia are set to resume peace talks today. We're going to dig into the terms that both sides are seeking, have all those stories, plus a check on the weather when we come right back here.